appreciate you coming. We know it's hard. Kids are everywhere, and lots of demands on our time, so we appreciate you coming. Our speaker tonight is Mr. Ryan Smith, and I'm going to read a quick bio about you, Ryan, and you feel free to add. Okay. So Ryan served as an educator for 12 years in Mesquite ISD in various capacities, including teacher, coach, technology facilitator, and now he is serving as a director and providing counseling to families of children who are in elementary school who have been sent to alternative education placement. So he works with the families. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist and an LPC, or a licensed professional counselor. He's also currently a doctoral candidate in the counseling program at Texas A&M Commerce. Through his various work at all different levels in public education, he has developed a vast knowledge of technology-based issues and interventions. And while his research has brought to light many technology-based concerns for families, it has also led to the development of practical solutions. Ryan's message is not anti-technology, but rather pro-knowledge and safety. So thank you again for being here. We're going to have Ryan speak, and then we will have a second speaker after Ryan, and then an opportunity for you all to ask questions, and hopefully we can provide the answers.
All right, great. Thank you for being here. I'm going to jump right in because I am essentially taking 90 minutes of stuff and cramming it into 59. Actually now, 62. So get comfortable, buckle up. Right off the bat, I want to say this. And by the way, I feel like I'm doing this with a hand behind my back because I've been asked to stay by this microphone so we can pick up the audio. Ordinarily, I would be all around the outside of this thing. So if I drift off, somebody kind of kick me back and point me back to the microphone. Going back to where we were, technology isn't bad. What you heard just a minute ago is absolutely accurate. My approach to managing technology, even as a marriage and family therapist, is not to get rid of the technology. Even the stuff we're about to look at. All right, so this is an important component of this. I don't believe that the way to manage technology is to go back 50 years and all move to a cornfield where the technology can't get us. Here's what I want. This is what I want your technology to look like. Nobody ever walks into a house and feels overwhelmed by the fireplace. I've not walked into a home and gone straight to the fireplace and just kind of stared at it and then occasionally glanced up at people, but stared at the fireplace. That's not how technology should work. This is what technology tends to look like in our homes. Okay, so this is an appropriate level of technology. This technology has a place. It provides an ambiance. It enhances the functionality of your family. It enhances the life of your family, but it shouldn't dominate. It was mentioned a minute ago, I've been in public education for 12 years. I'm also, again, a licensed marriage and family therapist. In a lot of families I work with, this is what happens to the technology. Okay, so the technology just becomes all-consuming and all-encompassing. When we spend more time in the course of an evening, and I'm not saying during a day, I know we have jobs that require us to look at our phones, but when we spend more time in the course of an evening at home looking at our phone than we do looking at our spouse, or looking at a phone rather than looking at our kid, this is what you're dealing with. Okay, and this is what we want to avoid. The catch to this is it's not the technology. It is absolutely not the technology. As I'm sure you can guess I'm about to say, it's us. Okay, so we need to learn to manage us, not learn to manage the technology, and we're going to do that simultaneously. I want to give you a visual of what I think we are with technology. We're kind of like a monkey with a pistol, right? We know it's shiny, and it makes sounds, and it does things that are kind of cool. We just don't totally understand what it does. We know it's powerful, but we don't necessarily understand what it does. I should have mentioned this before we got into this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it now. We're about to get into some technical aspects of the technology that exists. We're going to talk about specific apps and what they do. These apps are based and founded in a lot of research that I've done into this field. My dissertation topic that I'm writing right now, which I'm going to give a shameless plug for anybody who wants to be a part of it. I'm doing a dissertation right now on the impact of social media on marriage. So we think of social media as a kid problem. As a family therapist, I view it as an adult problem. So we're looking at that. I say that because I want you to know that we're going to start this conversation with a look at what technology is. Then we're going to talk about what it does. All right. With that in mind, I'm going to lead off with this, and we are not going to spend as much time on this as you might expect. These are the apps that if you have children, I want you to be aware of. Now, I just mentioned that we're not going to spend as much time on this as you would probably guess. I hope the explanation for why that is clear, but if it's not, let me explain it. You're going to be an expert in these apps for about 10 minutes. Because while I'm having this conversation, there's another app that your kids are going to find, and there's another app that's going to show up on a middle school campus or on a high school campus. So I don't want you to view what we're about to do as an exhaustive list of problem apps. In the past, I've spent a huge amount of time in these presentations looking at this, looking at the actual apps. We're not doing that tonight. What we've done, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to put these into categories. Okay? I'm going to give you a bunch of apps that fit into each category. But when you encounter a new app that you see on your kid's phone, or if you're a teacher or a counselor, if you see on a device at your school, I don't want you to worry quite as much about learning every intricate thing about that app. I want you to think about what we're about to talk about. What family do they fall into? That will kind of help you figure out what to do with it. Right off the bat, we're going to look at direct messaging apps. And this is always the first app that I talk about because it is so problematic. Everybody familiar with this one? Okay, I am going to ask for a show of hands if you are familiar with the app that you see in front of you. Okay, that's good. That's not enough. This app is, as you can see by its logo, called Kik. Kik, of all the apps that I encountered, this is the most problematic simply because it's the most popular. Okay, I'm going to explain what it does, and I'm going to give you the other apps in this category so you kind of know where they fall. Kik it's a messaging app that allows users to create a profile using whatever information they want. The first time I created a Kik account, it took about 10 seconds. You have to put in the username you want, select the password, and then you're kind of in. It works like text messaging, where you can group text. You can put a group of people into a message, and you can respond to people within the message. You can send direct messages to one person. It works like text messaging. So why don't they just text message? Here's why Kik is really appealing. You can change that username by just going into the settings and changing the username. It's not tied to your phone number. It's not tied to anything that is static. So if I choose to change my username on Kik, but I have the username of a friend of mine who I don't like, who I want to bully, and I want to send nasty stuff to, Kik is the way to do it. It's really hard to trace it. It's really hard to figure out where messages came from. On my website, and I'm going to send you to my website here in just a bit so you know that it's there. Before I tell you anything about it, I want to make sure you know this. I'm going to mention it a lot. Everything on it is free. I'm not trying to get money out of it. I'm trying to do a service for you. So if you go to the website, everything is free. Feel free to use it and share it as you would like. You're going to find a video on that website. That video is me interviewing a detective from the Mesquite Police Department. In that story, he's going to talk about this thing that happened on an app. We don't use the name of the app because I don't want to get sued. The app is Kik. Okay? I'm assuming none of you are connected to corporate offices at Kik and you're not going to sue me for it. The app is Kik. We tried to make really abundantly clear that it was a popular app, but here's the short version of the story. He had a young woman in Mesquite she was being sexually exploited by someone via the Kik app. He had a pretty good idea who it was based on some things that had been said between them. He subpoenaed the records from Kik to just prove where the account had originated from. Kik, which is not a United States-based company, said no thanks. They do not participate in any of the legal stuff that involves their website because they're not based here. Okay? There was nothing he could do about that. That story did not end well. Watch the video, watch it with your kids, and when they say, I don't know what app that is, it's Kik. They've got it on their phone right now. All right, there's a couple other things about Kik that I want to mention. It's not just the fact that you can change your username and send aggressive or sexually explicit content. On this app, there's a grouping behavior that takes place. You can create a group, and you can invite people to that group. Now, if you're a middle school girl, and you want to invite a bunch of people to a group, what's like the worst thing that can happen next? For your name to show up as being removed from that group, right? So that happens a lot on Kik. Anything you can think of that would be problematic with middle school and high school kids communicating in a way that was anonymous, that's what's happening with Kik. So I want you to be aware that Kik exists, but it is the first of many in this same family. And I'm going to put the rest of them up real quickly. You familiar with the one on the top left, this one here? WhatsApp. All right. Anybody use WhatsApp? Okay, good. WhatsApp, let me tell you why I like WhatsApp. I like WhatsApp because it does all the same stuff that Kik does, but it's tied to your phone number. Because it's tied to your phone number, with a little bit of effort, you can figure out who sent certain messages. Make sense? It is really hard to hide on WhatsApp. I like it as an app. If your kid wants one of these two apps, I would be all in favor of WhatsApp for that reason. Snapchat down at the bottom. This is one that always comes up. It's super insanely popular. There are some things about it that I hope are clear. Snapchat, the philosophy behind it is you can send a message that will self-destruct. I hope you understand that that's a myth. That it does. In the app, it will appear as though it is self-destructed. There are about 100 apps that exist for the sole purpose of saving those snaps. Save My Snaps is one of them. So understand that if your kid believes that Snapchat is safe because everything disappears, not exactly. If you want to go the old-fashioned way, you can just pull out a separate phone and record the snaps as they come in, right? So Snapchat is problematic. I want to mention this, though. On its surface, none of this stuff is bad. Remember what I said? It's not the technology, it's us. My 5-year-old actually really likes Snapchat. You know why? He is connected to one person on Snapchat. It is his uncle who lives in Seattle, my older brother, who, despite being rather inappropriate because he doesn't have kids and he doesn't really understand what you should say to a 5-year-old. Other than that, he gets a kick out of it, right? Because he gets to watch his Uncle Gabe do funny stuff. So he likes Snapchat. Snapchat in and of itself is perfectly fine. I got no problem with it. It's when kids think that they've got a buffer because now the snaps disappear, so I can send whatever I want. If you have a kid who comes to you and says, I'm being bullied on Snapchat, you need to, first of all, I would download Save My Snaps, is a good one. There's a bunch of other ones. I'd have them download that so they can record these things, or I would record them from your phone as well. Here's the other thing. You're going to hear me say this a lot. Your kid has Snapchat. You need to have a conversation. The conversation isn't, get rid of that app, it's terrible. The conversation needs to be, what are you doing with it? What kind of messages do you send? What kind of messages do you get? Can I see them? And if the answer is no, that's a problem. You need to have a conversation with your kid about how they're using these things. WeChat is one that's kind of like Kik. The difference being it uses the feature of your phone, like the GPS feature. You can shake your phone on WeChat and it'll find people in your area who also use WeChat. WeChat I'm not seeing nearly as much, but its numbers have really gone up in the last year, so somebody's using it a lot. So if you see that one, it's the same basic concept as Kik. It's just a different brand, different company. The other thing I want to mention about Kik and about these direct messaging apps, do you remember a couple of years ago, and if you're a parent of middle school kids, I'm sure you do remember, the Virginia Tech case with the college kid who met the young lady and ended up killing her? That was Kik. Okay, so again, Kik is problematic. These apps, again, in and of themselves, whatever, they're fairly harmless, but the way kids tend to use them is pretty disturbing. All right, the second family we're going to look at is a family called message board apps. Let me give you the first one. Who can name that app? Yik Yak! Teacher, right? Is that the teacher? Counselor, fair enough. All right, next up, how about this one? Okay, Whisper. Good. Last one. You are all in detention for like an hour. You need to know this one. This is really important, and I'm going to explain why here in just a second. I'm going to start with Yik Yak. Yik Yak, if you can imagine a dry erase board hovering above our heads, and you, without anybody seeing that it's you, can stand up and write on that dry erase board so everybody can see it, but nobody knew that you did it, that's Yik Yak. Okay? You open up Yik Yik Yak, and you can see, it's a public message board, you can see everybody who's posted within a certain geographic area. If you live where I live, we live in the middle of nowhere. Our neighbors are, no joke, we have chickens and our neighbors are cows. So in my area, it's a 6-mile radius on Yik Yak. You can, by the way, even in the country, somebody's still looking for weed every time I open that thing. But Yik Yak, 6-mile radius. If you live in Dallas, it's going to be a mile and a half. Because the population density is way higher, so the radius is going to be way smaller. Here, it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle, right? What that means is you open Yik Yak, and by the way, you can do this right now if you want. I prefer you didn't, because I got stuff to say. But if you open up that app, you are going to see a bunch of random people posting a bunch of random things. Now, if you couldn't figure this out through your deductive reasoning, Yik Yak had a lot of problems when it was first launched. It had a lot of problems because people were doing a lot of horrifying things on it. This is going to shock you, but trust me, this is that marriage and family therapy training at work. When kids can post anonymously, they don't tend to do it in a smart way. I know. It takes a long time to get there. Trust me, I got a lot of schooling for that. Yik Yak created that problem. Here's what happened with Yik Yak. When it first came out, schools had a lot of bullying that took place. You could be in a classroom, you could pull up Yik Yak, and you could put a bomb threat on Yik Yak from school. Nobody knew where it came from, right? That happened a lot. So Yik Yak responded by geofencing every high school in America. Now, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. If you're on a high school campus, I would check it. If you're on a middle school campus, there's a less of a probability that it works there, because they did it there as well. But maybe it works on your campus. If you're on an elementary campus, it definitely works. So this, in theory, is kind of a neat idea. The public message board idea. If you're at a concert, or you're at an event, if you're at there's all kinds of stories of things like Yik Yak, and there was another one, Fire Chat, in China during a political revolution. These things can be used in a fairly positive way. But again, for some reason, our kids just can't seem to use these things responsibly. Whisper is very similar to Yik Yak. The difference being you post like a meme. So if you've ever looked on Yahoo, anybody like me and just find yourself getting lost in the Yahoo news feed? Yeah, that's a problem. Whisper, every time you see one that says like, confessions of fast food workers, somebody just opened up Whisper and did some searching and put it into an article. Okay, don't look at that thread, by the way. You'll never eat again. Whisper basically allows you to post stuff anonymously. I'm going to show you some examples of this in just a second. The last one, though, I want to point out is the one at the very bottom. It's the one that none of you knew that I'm most concerned about. The one at the bottom is called After School. Let me tell you why After School is problematic. You know what I told you about Yik Yak? Yik Yak puts you together based on your geography. After School does the exact same thing based on your campus. It doesn't just geofence schools, it targets schools. So it's the anti-Yik Yak. Every one of your campuses has an after-school account, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. They all have one. Your high schools have one, your middle schools have one. I didn't check your elementary schools. But your secondary schools have one. And the reason I bring it up is because there's a catch to these things. In addition to the fact that it groups you by campus, it also makes it really, really, really hard for you to get into it. And here's what I mean. If you are like me and you see an app like this, by the way, this was introduced to me by one of our high school kids. I sit in our cafeterias a lot and ask questions about what they're doing. After about 20 minutes where they know I'm not going to do it there on their home campus and I'm not going to tell their parents, they usually open up to me. I had a high school kid introduce me to this one. And so I, of course, did what most of you were about to do, and I downloaded it. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to find the schools that I'm at, and I'm going to see it. And he goes, you're not going to be able to get in. Of course, I was a tech facilitator, bro. I can do this. And so I started doing a little account, and sure enough, it wouldn't verify me. It wouldn't allow me to get in. Well, I started doing some digging and some research. The reason it wouldn't verify me is in order to get an after-school account, you have to connect your account through a Facebook page that verifies that you are a student at that school. In addition to that, your Facebook page has to be tied to other people who are students at that school that you have to interact with on a regular basis. It's a very advanced algorithm. The reason for that, they don't want you in there. They don't want me in there. There have been articles written about that very topic with After School, and I'm going to give you their response. This is not just some theoretical thing. Their response is, kids need a place away from adults to experiment with ideas and to communicate freely. It's therapeutic. As a therapist, I kind of disagree with that sentence, but that's the argument that you're going to get from the after-school people. In theory, I don't disagree with that. In theory, you do need a place to communicate as kids away from the adults. Digitally and anonymously is not the place for that to happen. So if you see after school, again, don't freak out, don't panic, don't throw your kid's phone into a lake, just have a conversation. What are they doing? How are they using it? And can I see it? And if not, why are you screaming and crying? See what I mean? All right, so we're going to have a conversation about that. After school is the most problematic of these three, but they're all kind of problematic. All right, I'm going to show you one other thing. Whisper. Here was my training process with Whisper. Ready? Done. I'm Whisper trained. I'm Whisper certified. I'm not. I just did this thing. But this was their extensive training regimen. Right? Once you've done these things, you're in. I found this one about 5 seconds after I opened it for the first time. Let's tell you why that bothered me so much. It bothered me so much because my office is not on a campus. My office is kind of centrally located, but I know exactly what campus that is. There's only one of our campuses close to me that would have been describing. As a counselor, that drove me insane. Because my hope is, had this app not existed, my hope is that kid would have gone and actually sought out a human being to say this to, but that's not what happened. About 10 seconds later, I found my second favorite Whisper post. They're not all bad. That made me laugh. And if that is sexting, my wife and I have a very provocative relationship. Next up, public display / messaging apps. By the way, you can't tell I made these categories up myself. All right, anybody know this one? Oh, I'm going to break some elementary kids' hearts. Anybody know this one? Musical.ly. I'm going to hurt some people's feelings because you love it. It's a great app. Can I tell you what Musical.ly does if you don't know it? By the way, can I tell you where I found Musical.ly? I found it on an elementary campus as a teacher was handing it to the kid, and I said, ooh, what is that? And she told me, and I said, oh, that sounds neat, and then I went about my business. And then about 20 seconds later, this kid comes back and says, miss, and hands the iPad back, and I'll tell you what she saw in just a minute. So here's how Musical.ly works. Musical.ly is an app where you can, there's music that goes with it, and it's modern, contemporary music. The app is designed to lip sync. You're supposed to make little videos of you singing or lip syncing, and then you publish them and you share them. Here's the problem. It has the worst moderation of any of these kind of apps I've ever seen. It takes 30 seconds if you're looking for it to find nudity, to find profanity. In one of the little searches I did, the first time I ever presented on this, and I've got little kids present, so I'm going to use adult language that's going to be coded. I did some searching on Musical.ly to just see, is it really that bad? It was less than a minute before I saw men doing things that I wish I hadn't seen. Okay, now this was on Musical.ly. I'm looking through the public stuff, right? So I was looking for things, but kids know how to search for stuff, right? Musical.ly, in addition to the fact that there's a lot of things that happen on Musical.ly that are not pretty, there are songs that you don't want your kids lip syncing to, that they weirdly know all the words, and secondly, they put themselves out there singing this music. What that little kid saw was graphic nudity. She was in a second grade classroom on a campus, by the way. It got through our filter. So, and our filter is really good. We don't do everything right, but we do that really well. All right, next up, and I'm not going to talk about this one forever. Anybody know this one? Let me rephrase it. Anybody know this one? Want to admit it? It's Tinder. Tinder's the meat market app. You've heard about Tinder. It's the thing that's the sign of the apocalypse. When they sift through the fallen rubble of our fallen society, they'll get to the bottom and go, oh, that was it! It's Tinder. Tinder did it. So here's how Tinder works. You create a profile, and I'm using that word lightly. You take a picture of yourself, and then you put a couple of sentences, and then you open up the app, and you get to see all the people in your local area. And you just swipe right if you think they're attractive, and you swipe left if you don't. And if you swipe right on theirs, and they swipe right on yours, it puts you in a room to talk. So it's a dating. I'm going to do a lot of this. Dating. It's a dating app that is based solely on one thing, which is, do you find this other person attractive? Now, I take a slightly different approach to Tinder than you know what, that came out weird. I take a slightly different philosophical approach to Tinder than some of my colleagues. And I say that because I had a conversation with somebody. I was doing one of these talks sort of. It was about the, wasn't about the apps themselves, it was about the content, to a bunch of college kids at the University of Tennessee. And I had a kid talk to me afterwards about this, and make the argument that this is it's a workable, doable dating tool for them. And the argument he made was pretty sound, and I can't argue with it because he was 23. This has no business on the phone of a child. So if you, and by child, I mean under the age of about 19. If you see this on a middle school, high school kid's phone, all that stuff I said about don't panic, ask what they're doing with it, immediately take it, delete it, ground them for the rest of their life. There's a lot of, we can talk, if you go to my website, it'll walk you through some conversation topics to have if you find Tinder on your kid's phone. One other thing I want to mention, there's another video on my website where I interview, actually I didn't really even interview him, he just told his story. There's a kid that wanted to tell his story. He was a client of mine. He wanted to tell his story. We blacked him out and we changed his voice. He told a story of a horrifying encounter that he had. This kid was an academic All-American, went to an Ivy League school, was an athlete, did everything right, from a good family, from a good area. He was the kind of kid that you would think would never have problems. Listen to his story and listen to what happened to him. He was the victim of a sexual assault, which the reason that's so surprising is because a lot of 17-year-old guys don't think that can happen to them. That happened on Tinder. And by the way, he did a lot of stuff. Talked to this person for 3 weeks before he actually met him. And he thought he was meeting this girl. That is not who he met. Watch that video with your kids if they're old enough. And if they are, if we don't say the name of the app again, that was Tinder. Last two. Anybody know this one? This one's a little more rare, fortunately. This one is called Omegle. O-M-E-G-E. The way I got the name. You're on your own for the rest. The way Omegle works. Do you remember? It's kind of old. Do you remember Chat Roulette? That app, or I'm sorry, that website? All right, just me. So the way Chat Roulette works is you can, it's a chat room. You hit a button and it randomly puts you into a chat with this random person who's also using Chat Roulette. You don't know them, you never met them, you don't know where they are in the world, but they happen to be using it at the same time you're using it, so you're talking. The mobile version, Omegle. On your phone, you hit a button and it just connects you to whoever, and now you're video chatting. Last one is Periscope. Periscope, I'm not going to talk about a lot because most people know this one. If you don't know it as Periscope, Periscope is the app that a lot of kids are using. Facebook Live, that's Periscope. Where you kind of turn your phone into a broadcast studio, that's Periscope. I'm going to move forward because I want to make sure we have time to get to the application part of this. I want to repeat what I've said. Don't freak out unless it's Tinder. Then go ahead, freak out. Talk to your kid and be specific. And here's what I mean. I don't want you to ask questions like, so, like, do you use the app a lot? Or, like, what do kids do with the app? Don't be vague. Ask specifically, hey, what do you use that app for? Well, kids use it for, no. What do you use that app for? I want you to make them talk about themselves. And if they try to talk vaguely about, well, some people do it like this, some people, no. What do you use that app for? Make sure you bring the conversation back to them. Next, ask very specific questions. Hey, on Kick, I've heard that a lot of sexual content gets exchanged. Have you ever gotten any of that? You learn a lot by their answer to that question. Asking them point blank and very calmly, this is not an interrogation, but hey, sexual bullying happens a lot on Kick. Have you ever done that to anybody? Have you ever had that done to you? And you know your kids, but make them answer questions about their behavior on these things. I'm going to mention this, and I'm thrilled that we got a bunch of young kids, because I have a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. This is my world right now, is trying to manage these games. We actually had a conversation about this a few minutes ago with some of the people who've been organizing this. I'm not going to try to go through what each one of these things are. You've probably seen the horrifying Roblox article. If you haven't, you're not on Facebook. The other ones, here's what I want to say about games, okay? Any game that allows a kid to connect to people in the outside world, you need to be on it like a hawk. You would not allow your kid to sit on the sidewalk and just have a bunch of random conversations who would ever walk past without you sitting there. Don't let them do it online either. I manage Minecraft and these other games. I manage them the most effective way known to man, and it was a total accident. My family and I moved out to the country where our neighbors are cows and chickens. We don't have internet in our house. That wasn't on purpose. I didn't go out looking for the digital desert, but now that we found it, my kid can't be online when he plays these games. So he does. He plays a lot of these games, but he can't connect to the outside world. So if you have a young kid who wants to play some of these games, I'm okay with that. Download the app, disconnect it from Wi-Fi, disconnect it from 3G, and let them play. And if there's a feature that requires the internet, it's probably an app you either need to be sitting there with them while they're playing it, or they don't need to be playing it. Now, if they're doing it, and you can't control that, what I would recommend you do is make sure you have a very detailed conversation about what happens if a stranger invites them to be a friend or tries to talk to them. I want you to have that conversation with them digitally, just like you would if it were at the park. Okay? This is the new park. Make sure you're having a conversation with your kids about, hey, if you're ever just hanging out in Minecraft, if you're hanging out in Roblox, and some person you don't know talks to you, come and tell me. Don't delete anything and don't respond. Come and tell me and let me see it. And then you start having a conversation about what to do next. All right, this is going to take just a second. These apps, there are a billion of them. That is a clinical term. There are a whole bunch of them. Here's what these apps do. Calculator % is my favorite because of the way it functions. If you open it, it looks like a calculator. If you punch the buttons, that's what a calculator does. But if you punch the right code in, it unlocks all of the apps you've hidden on your phone. So if you got a teenager, if you see this app and it has that little green % down at the bottom, ask them to unlock it because all the stuff you're looking for is behind that app. Okay? It's a mask. Poof was the first app that got really popular that does this. It masks all the other stuff that they've got. This one comes and goes out of the App Store because it's really popular. Here's the weird part. You want it to be popular, but it can't be too popular. Because if some dude is giving this presentation and telling parents about it, that means they probably found something else. Okay? So I would want to know. My son is 5. If he has a phone, I want to know about it. He doesn't. But when he's a little older and has a phone, and listen, you're going to think what I'm about to say sounds crazy. You need to know what every app on their device does. This is not a calculator. And I'm going to show you how to verify that what it looks like and what it is. All right, monkey break. Now he knows what he's holding. Let's talk about what it does. Buckle up. We're about to get moving. Technology is insanely stimulating. Okay? This has different consequences at different developmental stages. I'm going to talk for just about 30 seconds on the preschool stage, early elementary stage, but we're going to fly through these. Now, this sweet, adorable child, which all of you think is shockingly adorable because he's my son, is an example of the preschool age. In 1970, the average age that kids began watching TV was 4 years. In 2016, you want to take a guess at what age children begin regularly encountering screens? There we go, 4 months. It is exactly right, 4 months. Here's what that digital stimulation does. I'm going to give you the details here. I'm going to point you to a video that will explain it in much more detail in 17 minutes. Digital stimulation does the following. Here's what research indicates. For every hour, on average, per day, that a child spends in front of a digital stimulant, so in front of a screen, there's a 10% increase in the likelihood of later attention problems. By the way, these numbers are pretty sound. They're not my opinion. I'm going to tell you where they came from in just a minute. On average, for every hour that your preschool-age kid spends looking at a device during the course of the day, there is a 10% increase in the likelihood for attention problems later in life. Cognitive stimulation. So cognitive stimulation means the museum. You go outside and play with bugs. You sing to them. You talk to them. That's cognitive stimulation. For every hour they get of cognitive stimulation, there's a 30% decrease in the likelihood for later attention problems. Now, what does that mean? That means you need to have a ratio of both of these. I live in this world. I live in the technology world. My 5-year-old has an iPad. I am not anti-technology. But we have got to be very deliberate about that cognitive stimulation. We've got to be very deliberate to make sure that when I get home, everything goes off, he's got my full and complete attention, and we do things that will stimulate him cognitively. Because he's had some screen time during the day, we want to counterbalance some of these effects. Next up, young children. Shockingly, another adorable child. Where am I finding all these kids? Yeah, that's my oldest one. The link to attention issues manifests itself at this stage. Here's what I mean. So those numbers we just talked about, they start to appear around his age. Okay, this is my oldest. He's 5. He'll start kindergarten in a couple of months, and I'm terrified. Inattention in early education is positively correlated to the expectation of high levels of stimulation. Here's what that means. All that attention stuff we just talked about, there's a reason. it's not just that it's warping their brains. You're conditioning this one, you're conditioning him. When he gets to this one's age, his expectation is that his input will be quick, that it will be high energy, that it will be the pacing will be really rapid. The video I want you to watch on your own time will show the differences between Mr. Rogers and Powerpuff Girls. And you see the difference in visual stimulation is crazy. So it's not just a matter of content, but it's a matter of what the content is. Okay, this is the guy's name. If you want to take a note of this, you can. I'm going to send you to my website. I have a link to this video specifically for you. It says Denton ISD. There's a link. Click on the link. This video explains what screen time in young preschool kids does. It's a TED Talk, 17 minutes. I sent it to my wife when I first found it, and we watched it together. All right, so I'm going to give you something about teenagers really quickly. All right, this is the part that I'm most nervous about in terms of delivering information, because I am going to roll through an entire 90-minute presentation in the next 60 seconds. All right, dopamine. Dopamine is the teenage stuff that drives you crazy, right? Dopamine, the best way to understand it is it triggers the reward center in the brain, right? It's what predicts rewards. The baseline in kids, in teenagers, the baseline dopamine level is lower. It's why when they sit around the house and they say they're bored, they're not lying. Their baseline level of dopamine is lower than yours. Reading a good book on a beautiful afternoon doesn't do it for kids that age. And there's a reason for that. Their dopamine level, their resting dopamine level is lower. However, the pathway for dopamine is way wider, which means they can experience dopamine rushes in a way that you and I can't. They're bored when they're sitting around. They're more engaged with life than you and I could ever imagine being. Here's why that's important. There is a fairly popular theory in my world. Now, at this point, it's a theory. But there's a fairly popular theory in my world, and as a former high school teacher, I do not disagree with this theory. The dopamine, the resting dopamine level being lower in adolescence has a really great purpose. In terms of what it can do for us, when we were young, it's what drove us out of the house. Our resting dopamine rate, you can't do anything in that house that provides the kind of dopamine rush that I need to be excited about life. So as a young man at 18, I went out into the world looking for something. Now, dopamine explains why kids are driven to do some of the things they're driven to do. Here's my question. What exists in the modern home that provides a dopamine rush that nothing in the outside world can? Video games. So here's the theory. The theory is that for adolescent boys, I don't know if you're familiar with the numbers, girls are outpacing boys in a shocking, shocking rate in our culture right now. Both in their academic accomplishment, in their graduation rates from both high school and college, as well as their career involvement rates. Boys are lagging behind in every measurable category. It is not a crazy belief, and I tend to subscribe to it. This is a major reason why. Boys can get a dopamine rush from video games that they can't get from anywhere else. So why would I leave the house? That dopamine rush that I'm looking for is in my room. So Mom will bring me pizza rolls, and I can do this till I'm 7. All right. I'm going to talk about the social stuff now. You can read this. You don't need me to say it. Social norms are changing. There's a book by Aziz Ansari that looks at modern dating. And in that book, which is a great book, I'll show it to you again, he talks about a study in which over 70% of young people under the age of 22 in the previous year had been broken up with. The ones who've been broken up with, over 70% had been broken up with via digital means. So they were broken up with not with a phone call or a face-to-face conversation, but through a text. That's not the crazy part. That was nutty. The crazy part was that 80% of them preferred it that way. So we're totally changing the norms and expectations. Let's talk about defiance for just a second. You know what I remember? Remember TGIF? Full House? I was at my house, and my mom came home, and she walked in the door, and she said, "Your dad's got a surprise for you." I, being the resourceful young man that I was, peeked out the window. He had a go-kart in the back of the car, or back of the truck that he was giving to me and my brother. Great day, right? You'd think I'd be super excited. This is not a good story. This is not a story about how my dad got me a go-kart and I'm thrilled. Here's what happened. I remember that moment, not because of the go-kart, but because it was Friday night, and Uncle Jesse was up on the roof of the warehouse because he'd been dared to ride his motorcycle. You know the episode I'm talking about, the Full House? Some of you are like, yeah, I remember that. I still have not seen the episode. I haven't seen it. I have no idea. Did he live? I assume he lived. He appeared in subsequent episodes, but I never saw the end of that. Why? Because unlike today, if I wasn't sitting in front of a TV when the show was on, I didn't get to see it. Now, we don't think of this in terms of child development, but what did that teach me? What did that teach you? The world doesn't revolve around you. The world doesn't revolve around your schedule. Your life is not on demand. If you wanted to watch Saturday morning cartoons, what did you have to do? You had to get up on Saturday. These kids are being raised in the culture they don't have to do that. Do you remember having to go to the store and buy a CD? Foreign concept. Okay, these things are all dead and gone. Kids don't experience them anymore. In a kid's world, their life is on demand. Now, let me ask you a question. You take one of these kids who's under the age of 5, and you have an entire life that's on demand, on demand, on demand. Now I'm going to stick you in a classroom with a teacher who says, we're going to color for the next 10 minutes, and we're going to move to this activity. Teachers are running themselves ragged trying to be phones. They're trying to give kids, okay, options, and if you don't like this, then you can do this. We're killing our teachers. And one of the reasons we're doing that is because we're sending them kids who are used to this. Their entire life is on demand. Okay, all those little moments when you were a kid that taught you that you were not in control of the world, they're not getting. Okay, now how can you help that? You can help that by making sure if you've got young kids, that's not the case for them. The stuff may be on demand, but you're the one who controls the input. All right, they also don't do well with long lectures on their behavior. I know I'm preaching to the choir on that. There's another thing that I've noticed. To a lot of our high school kids especially, everyone online is a peer. You know why I would never imagine using profanity in front of my parents or one of their friends? Because I had to look them in the eye, and I was within smacking distance. And I didn't want that. Kids in this culture, there's a digital barrier between them and everybody else. I told a story a little while ago about my one experience in online gaming. I will never do that again. 9-year-olds have colorful language, and they're really good at video games. And then they know you're old, and then you're the target, and then the language. Again, and I kid you not. In my one experience, no kid, I actually did tell a kid, put your mother on. He did not. Everyone online is a peer, which means they can talk to you however they want. A couple other things I want you to know. Conflict has changed. That idea of just walk away, that idea doesn't work anymore. The reason it doesn't work anymore is because I'm going to tell you this, and I hope you hear it the way it comes out. The only thing worse than being the kid beaten up on the YouTube video is being the kid who stopped the fight on the YouTube video. They're playing with a deck of cards that you don't understand. You don't remember. You don't know what that was like. I got one fight in my life. I pummeled the kid. How do you know that? Because I'm telling you, you can't fact check that. You see what I'm saying? That other kid may be somewhere else saying, yeah, I pummeled him. He would be lying. But you get the point. The point is now they can fact check everything, so they don't have that moment where they get to be, I'm going to be the good guy here, because then you get to be the source of all the mockery on YouTube, because you broke up, it was going to be a really good fight. Next, cyberbullying. Listen, we can talk about that, but you know what I'm talking about. It's horrifying, and I hate the fact that it happens. And this is all, it's tied to something called audience mentality. Kids will be defiant with you when there's nobody else in the room, because they're just in a world where they're conditioned that everyone's paying attention, and it matters what I say and how I come on. There's an increased urgency in their conversation that's troubling as well. There's a lady named Sherry Turkle I want to send you to. She has a book. I'm going to show it to you at the end, but if you're interested in this topic and what digital stuff is doing to communication, read her book. It's amazing. But there's an issue with communication in extremes and absolutes. If you're an educator, if you're one of my people in this room who actually works on a campus, you, like myself, may be horrified and shocked by the extreme language that kids use with each other. Parents, you may be surprised at how regularly kids tell each other to kill themselves. Okay, that to you may seem shocking. I would never say that when I was at it. Let me ask you a question. Who gets attention on social media? It's not rhetorical. Who gets attention? The loudest, most extreme people in the world, right? You become a social media celebrity by being extreme. Get your own television show. That's a message we're teaching kids. If you can be extreme and use extreme language, people will pay attention to you. The last thing I want to tell you about is they can always escape. This is something Sherry Turkle talks about a lot in her book. You don't have to really be anywhere. That's a problem for a lot of different reasons, but primarily with kids, some of the best moments in your adolescent life are the things you messed up. when you had to have an awkward conversation because your mom dropped you off at the birthday party in 5th grade because the kid invited everybody in class and you didn't really know anybody and you didn't really even like the kid, but you got dropped off. What did you have to do when you got there? Make it work, man. You had to go in and play the game. Twister, I'm in, whatever. By the end of it, we're friends. Now, in that same scenario, you're checked out, you're texting, you're online, you're doing something else. There's also future opportunities. I'm not going to walk you through this, but I do want you to see it. If you have secondary kids, they need to know that colleges are paying attention to their social media. I'm going to show you 2 things. This is a football coach, a former football coach at Auburn. He just tweeted, dropped another prospect because of what happened on their social media account. This is, and you can find this on my website, if you've got athletics in your family, if you've got kids who are athletes, you need to show them this. This is a picture that SMU tweeted out from their football program that actually walked through exactly what they do with every single social media posting from one of their prospects. If you'll notice when you read through this, every single post is analyzed. This was their Twitter profile. So you'll notice, and it's kind of hard to see from where you are, they've got the first one I want to point you to. Language, or the second one. Language and inappropriate videos or languages in his retweets. That's not about what the kid tweeted, it's about what the kid retweeted. So this is a football coach who takes the mentality, if you retweet it, you own it. Okay? Football and basketball and lacrosse and all these sports that are looking for athletes and that are cherry-picking high schools for athletes, they're paying attention to your profile. Why is that? They don't want to end up on SportsCenter because of a scandal. And this is one of the reasons that happens. You have these kids who engage in these really dangerous behaviors. They publicize it, and it gets them, their parents, their school, it gets a lot of different people in trouble, and colleges are trying to avoid that. All right, here's where we are. Okay, this is the part I care about the most. Okay? It's the part I care about the most. I'm going to pick on you for a minute. The first step in addressing technology with your kid is to address it with your family. This is not a kid problem. This is not a kid problem. And I'm looking at Facebook parents. This is not a kid problem. Now, I'm going to start us off lightheartedly. That's one of my favorite parts. How many people have you wanted to send that to? Yeah. You probably wanted to send it to you too, but that's fine. Let me tell you about the family approach to solving these technology problems. We create a phone-obsessed culture. And then we get all weird with our kids when they're obsessed with their phone. They see you on your phone all the time, and then you bark at them when they get on theirs. Okay? This is not a kid problem. This is a family relational problem. This is an actual picture. I realize probably shouldn't do that. My wife took that picture. Yeah, like I said, probably shouldn't do that. But she was horrified by it. Now, if you're one of my AP students and you're like, well, how'd she take the picture? She had her phone out, but only for a minute. This is a common scene. You have been to a teacher's office lately? Been to a doctor's office of any kind? Been anywhere where people are with their kids? That's what you see. I took this one. We were at Costco shopping for Christmas presents. Is anybody else horrified by this picture? If you don't see what I'm seeing, let me explain it. Yeah, now it's, oh, I see what it is. Or you're just pretending to say that because you don't look like a bad person. So here's what's going on in this picture. This is the kitchen set. What happens with the kitchen set? Well, it's for the kids to play like adults, right? See how this one's playing like an adult? This is what her vision of a mom is. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe she's calling for pizza. My assumption is she's tweeting or she's posting something on Facebook about this dude. Hasn't spoken to her in 3 days. Just goes to the little fake fridge, gets his little plastic fruit, and goes and sits down and watches his cartoons. This horrified me when I first saw it. I want to show you something else too. This is a conversation. Conversation is measurable. Intimacy in conversation is measurable. And a number of studies have been done, and if you want to read about them, go to the website. Essentially, here's what it says. The presence of a cell phone between two couples reduces their measurable intimacy by up to 30%. I'm not talking about cell phones that are being used. All of the studies that show this variable, they're done with cell phones that were not on. They're just in the presence of the two people talking. Here's what that means. That means if you're sitting at dinner with your husband, and your phone is sitting on the table between the two of you, you don't have to touch it. measurably speaking, your intimacy level is going to go down by as much as 30% by the presence of your cell phone, whether you're touching it or not. All right, it's hard to ask for healthy kids in an unhealthy home. We're the most distracted culture in history, which means there's kind of nothing wrong with the kids, right? In reality, when adults aren't around, kids test limits. You did it. Most of you. I did. Most kids do. The problem is parents just aren't around a lot now, even when they're in the same room. So you can be sitting next to a kid, but because the kid is doing something digitally that you're not monitoring, you might as well not be present. That's what I mean when I say parents aren't around. I don't mean you're out of the house or you're neglecting your kids. I mean it's just too easy to hand them a phone and then start talking about your day with your wife. Which, by the way, I like my wife. I would like to catch up with her from time to time. I'm sympathetic to that. I'm not knocking it. But when you're not actually present with what they're doing digitally, you're out of the house. You're gone. You're not supervised. So what do? Step one is we talk. But we talk with purpose into resolution. I'm going to show you something. You can download this for free on the website. This is a family technology plan. It has on it a series of expectations that you and your significant other can sit with your kids and talk through. You'll notice there's sections for everybody. There's the everyday, everyone section where you're going to go through, this is kind of some norms for us. By 9 o'clock, we all need to be off our phones, so we're going to put that on the tech plan. By the way, number 2 is in the everyday, everyone, because I believe in it so severely, and if you are struggling with this, let me clarify. No child should have a device in their room at night, period, under any circumstances. No computers, no iPads, no cell phones, nothing. The reason for that, the call of that device is too tempting. They will not sleep. And if they put it on a night mode, again, the lights are going to go off. It's going to get their attention. The other thing, if you have an adolescent boy, I'll clean it up for the present kids. You can imagine you might as well be sending them to bed with a treasure trove of pornography. Which I'd rather you do, by the way, because then you get to control the content. What they're going to find digitally is way worse than what you would have given them. Make sense? So no kid needs to have a device in their room. It always sounds weird when I say that. Because somebody's like, did you say to give our kid porn? No, not really. All right, by the way, there's also a section on here with parents. No work contact after blank. If you get an email, and by the way, I realize that some employers, that's not a negotiable. You get an email at 10 o'clock, you've got to respond to it. Work with what works for your family if you need to change some of these. Number 2, pictures of kids posted online must be approved by the kids first. I really like that rule. All right. Couple other things I want to mention. Side 2, and there's a video that explains this in much greater detail. Side 2 of the Family Tech Plan. See where it says slip-ups? If somebody violates policy number 3, which you can see by the numbers on the side. If somebody violates policy number 3, I want you to already know what's going to happen. So you don't have to yell and scream. You don't have to say like, okay, you did something bad. Now we need to figure out what we're going to do next. I want you to have that conversation when things are good, so that when things are bad, you kind of take that off your plate. This is not about a rigid set of expectations. It's about a series of goals and a series of philosophies that help guide you and your family and your technology. By the way, I do this when there's not kids involved. I do this with spouses all the time. The reason the dissertation that I chose to research was social media and marriage. A lot of marriages are just pulling away from each other, and the culprit is the device. The culprit is this. So this is not something that's just for kids. There are a lot of things you can do with this, but I need to fly through it quickly so we can get to everything. Just remember it's about proactive messaging. Next, I want you to stay educated. If you do not know this app yet, know it now and download it. It is called Common Sense Media. Here's what Common Sense Media does. You type in the name of any app, any song, any movie, any whatever. Common Sense Media has reviewed it, has given it a parent rating, has explained what it is, and explained if your kid has already seen it, what to talk to them about. Okay? And here's why I want you to know this. You can use my website. I've highlighted a couple of these. Don't use my website as your resource. There's one of me. This is a big company. I want you to use common sense. I have never searched for an app or a song or a game on Common Sense Media and not found it. Okay, so use this resource. It covers just about everything. I also want you to really teach resilience and safety. The safety part can come from the tech plan. The resilience part's a little different. I shouldn't have to say this to parents, and ordinarily I don't, because when it comes to resilience in a lot of other areas, We don't need this. But when it comes to digital resilience, I'm going to give you some bad news. Every now and then, your kids are going to do something online that you can't fix, and that you can't trace who did it. I did one of these presentations about a year ago, and I don't even remember what district it was, but when it was over, I got an email 2 or 3 days later from one of the moms who'd been there, and she said, here's what happened, and she gave me a paragraph explanation of the way that her 17-year-old daughter was being cyberbullied through an app, right? So she says, I need to know, how can we figure out who this is? I know what app she was talking about, but the answer is you can't. And I responded back, and I said, unless she's broken a law, unless you can see, unless there's visible evidence of a law being broken, you can't really report it. The police are going to tell you there's no law that's been broken, and you can't trace this. She was furious with me, but the reality is, sometimes you have to focus on resilience with your kids. Sometimes you have to focus on, okay, this horrible thing has happened. You're going to be okay. There are bad people in the world. Sometimes bad people say bad things. Sometimes good people say bad things. And what do we do with it? That Twitter feed has a mute button. That Facebook, you can unfriend people. All of these apps that they're doing all these things on, they can remove themselves from. Sometimes that's the message. And if they can't manage it themselves, sometimes you have to be the one who says, I love you, I know you think you're in trouble, but I need to take this device for a while. All right, step 4, who are we showing the world we are? If you've got an adolescent kid, especially one that's at the secondary level, I want you to do this with them. There's a link to it on the website. It's called a social media inventory for high school students. You can do it with anybody. If you work on a high school campus, man, take this idea and run with it. It came off a blog called Sam and Scout. It's a teacher blog. Here's, in essence, what it does. Okay, there's a link on the website. Here's what it does. It's a Word document. You can take this concept and apply it yourself. What she asked her kids to do was to go back through their last 100 social media posts and just categorize them. Put them in this, don't list them, you don't have to say what you put, but just put a little tick every time they fit into one of these categories. They're kind of hard to see. Let me tell you what the categories are. Selfie, subtweeting, which is talking bad about somebody in a way that they can't hear. Showing off, song lyrics, teenage angst, TV, sports. Wouldn't want my parents to see. That one's a good one. Wouldn't want my parents to see. Sexual innuendo. So they categorize their posts of any platform they choose, Twitter or whatever. They can categorize their own feed. Now at the end of this, you take 100 posts and you see, if I didn't know you, I'd never met you, and I just had your social media world to make judgments about who you were, who would I think you are? And this is important for colleges looking at you. This is important for people in the community who might not know you very well. Yes, ma'am? Oh, yeah, sorry. I thought you were raising your hand. All right, so that was my time. All right, here we go. I'm glad I went Red Bull tonight. So, categorize these. I've done this, by the way. I've done this little presentation at churches. Let me tell you what I like to do. I like to have the youth group do this while I talk to their parents, and then at the end we all put it together. Right? Now, one thing I want you to encourage you to do with this, you and your wife, if you post a lot, you should do this too. You and your husband should do this too. I don't really post a lot on social media, so mine would take a long time. I don't know if I've ever posted 100 things. But if you do this for yourself. Last thing, and this is the part you're going to hate me for rushing through this. Let me give you the most creative solutions I can give you. Number 1, kitchen safe. Anybody ever seen the kitchen safe? All right. It is a Tupperware device with a vacuum seal lock. When you put something in the device and you set the timer for an hour, it locks. There is no key. There is no password. There is no rain dance. There is no prayer. There's nothing you can do that gets that thing open. I say that because when your kid has problems with the phone, drop it in the kitchen safe, set the timer. Here's what you just eliminated. Oh, it's been like 5. I want my phone. Once this happens, once you drop it in there, you can hand it to him. Even if I change my mind, I can't get it out. There's nothing you can do. I love this device. It was designed for snack food. It was designed for snack food. By the way, I have with Xboxes, and there's an article about this on the website. I've used this device with a kid. We created a chart. Holy cow, I gotta go fast. We created a chart. We set the timer for 23 hours. He gets his Xbox controller out. When he puts it back in, he sets it for 23 hours. He can play again the next night at 7 o'clock. If that Xbox controller is late getting in, he has to set it for 37 hours, 30 whatever. You see the point. We add time on every time for every minute he's late. Which means 7:59 rolls around, mom's not badgering him. Whatever. Whenever it gets in, it's fine with me. 2 days, 3 days, it's up to you. That Xbox controller is in that thing every night at 7 o'clock because that's what time it has to be in. Next, Text Buster. If you have driving kids, please get Text Buster. Text Buster, oh, if I have driving kids in the room, you're going to hate me. You install Text Buster under the dash. They can't get to it unless they're an electrician. The way it works, it kills their data while they're in their car. They can text. No, excuse me. They can't text. They can make phone calls and their navigation works. Everything else is dead. Social media. They can't post to social media. They can't send text messages. All the stuff that you do. Oh, they also, you can go in and log into your account. You can see how fast they're going, where they've been. You can get average information for certain locations. How often are they in certain locations? This was actually not designed for kids. This was designed for truck drivers. Next, Ignore No More. Do you know Ignore No More? Okay, Ignore No More. You put it on your kid's phone, you put it on your phone. Your kid doesn't answer their phone, you want to shut down your kid's phone, you type a little code, it shuts down their kid's phone. You open it up and it says two things. Call the police or call mom. Those are the only two options. Next, Net Nanny. Net Nanny. This, by the way, these are all the tracking software that I know you're probably interested in. If you have young kids, Net Nanny is a great one. Net Nanny sends you reports as to where they're going. It's the best web filtration software I've encountered to put on a mobile device. This one, Spy Agent, is the best, but it only works on static, like desktop PCs and laptops. Net Nanny is great. I want to tell you just in 2 seconds. I've used Net Nanny with kids. I used Net Nanny 2 weeks ago. There was no kid in the room. I used Net Nanny because I had a husband in the room who was really struggling with pornography. He wanted to be accountable to his wife. Net Nanny. She gets the reports. So she now gets to see where he goes and see what he does. Net Nanny is a really valuable tool. They have one for social networking as well. These approaches are they're part of you being proactive and part of you being creative. Whatever the problem is, there's a solution to it. The solution may not be great. The solution may be you have to tell your kid that I need your phone for a while. Which, by the way, I get the argument that, well, yeah, but they have iPads and they go to school. My response to that, and this is the second time I've said this, my response to that is, I know I can't keep a 7th grade kid offline, but I can make it hard. I can make it tough for them. I know I can't prevent a middle school kid from being at a friend's house and getting online, but I can be sure my kid's not in his room using his device. So don't back down from parenting your kid because you think, well, there's devices everywhere. Yeah, I get it. There's a lot of bad stuff, a lot of places that you don't allow into your home. You see what I mean? So I want you to take that same approach to parenting. Let me tell you the last thing about technology. We tend to avoid dealing with it as parents because we don't know what we're messing with. We don't get it. We don't understand the technology, and because we don't understand the technology, we kind of go hands off when it comes to the parenting aspect. They're your kids. If you don't manage this stuff, nobody's gonna. And I can promise you this, they will take every inch of freedom that you give them, and they cannot be trusted to behave appropriately because they don't have the tools to understand what that means. Okay, I'm not saying they're bad kids. I love the kids that I work with. The one in the video, the Tinder video, I'm telling you, that kid, that's the kind of kid I want my kid to be. I'm not knocking you if you're a high school kid, if you're a teen. You're not a bad kid. You just don't have the life experience to understand the Pandora's box you're opening when you end up in the digital world. All right, I'm going to point you to a couple books. Reclaiming Conversation. By the way, if you're a teenager, I only got a couple of you in here, so I didn't talk to you a whole lot. If you're a teenager, talking to your parents does a lot of good for you. Keeps you out of a lot of trouble. Reclaiming Conversation. Read that book if you're interested in this. The Digital Divide goes back and forth between anti-technology and pro-technology. Alone Together is kind of a tougher read. It's Sherry Turkle's first book. It's really clinical. I really, really strongly recommend Reclaiming Conversation. This book is not about technology specifically, but it's about the young world and how they, how they mate and pair, how they pair up with each other. It, to me, was a very enlightening book, and I don't feel like I'm that insanely old. But there's a bunch of stuff in his book that I had not realized was happening in our culture. All right, our monkey with a pistol is happening. I'm going to leave you with my contact info. Take a picture of that if you would like. My email address, my contact information. I'm at your service. Again, everything on the website is free. I'm not trying to make a buck off of you. I am trying to help your family though. So if I can help you, please don't hesitate to let me know.
So we have another speaker, and Ryan will be around after we hear from our second speaker to answer questions as well. So our second speaker is Donna Curley. She is the library coordinator for Denton ISD. Her background is in elementary education, where she taught kindergarten, first, and third grades. She has worked as an elementary, middle, and high school librarian. She is now the coordinator of the librarians, and she works with 36 librarians from pre-K to 12. And of course, our librarians support reading for information and pleasure. They teach students how to efficiently locate, accurately evaluate, ethically use, and clearly communicate information. And our librarians provide access to devices and online resources, including instruction in digital citizenship. Ms. Donna.
Hi. Thank you all for coming tonight. They asked me to talk to you about how we do teach digital citizenship. And Ryan already alluded to the Common Sense Media website, and we do use Common Sense Media for our digital citizenship. And it provides 5 lessons per grade level, starting with kindergarten through 2nd grade, going up to 12th grade. And so they follow these 8 areas: self-image and identity, relationships and communication, digital footprint and reputation, cyberbullying and digital drama, information literacy, being ethical online, internet safety, privacy and security, and creative credit and copyright. And so those are spread out over 5 lessons at each grade level, and they won't get all 8 topics every year, but they do, over the course of the time, get all of these topics multiple times so that they have opportunities to learn about these things. And so each of our librarians do teach or work in conjunction with their counselors and other people to teach these 5 lessons every year. The other part of the Common Sense Media website that Ryan alluded to is the reviews. If you notice, there's a For Educators tab and a For Parents tab. And on the For Parents tab, that you can talk about new releases or movies or TVs or books or games, apps, websites, and all of these things. It will give you reviews on them. You also have top picks, best movie list, best TV list, best game list, family guides so that you can talk about these different things. There's some information for parental concerns, videos, blogs. It comes in Spanish and sometimes in French. There's some research base behind it, and there's a lot of good information on here. And since I was given about 5 minutes to speak, I'm not going to go into, I was given 10, I think, but since I'm not going to go into this in detail, I just wanted to show you where this is, and it's commonsensemedia.org. But I did want to take the time to show you where we have some information that you can use as parents. We were speaking before we started about some of the things that we do. And why is this not doing this? Okay, and so here are some places that you can go for good information for your students for homework or for research. We were talking about the National Geographic. We were talking about even having online components so they were connecting with people that were strangers to them. Even places like the games that were on National Geographic, and that their child just wanted to look up information on animals. Well, we have research databases that are available for parents. For all, it's on the library, the school library website. I went to my website at the central office, but you can find it on each school's website. And you can find Encyclopedia Britannica. You can find for young children, Kids Info Bits. There's also one, Gale is a good one for secondary, middle school and high school. There's a Maths and Social Studies. EBSCOhost has a lot of different databases, including one called Explora for primary or Explora for older kids. There's one on the American West or the American history, Indian history cultures. Culturegrams is country. But I wanted to show this one particularly to parents of young children. It's a merchant reader. It's designed for children ages up through grade 2. And you can find information on any of those. And it's defaulting, so I'm gonna log in. So there's animals in English and Spanish, there's science, there's biographies, and there's social studies. So if they're wanting to look up information on animals, it's going to, let's see, frogs will be good. It's going to read it out loud to them.
Frogs are amphibians.
And it does a very short thing through this page. It will have, then it'll go to the next page. It's very easy for young children to do. And it goes all the way through the information, including life cycle and different things like this. And there are usually 2 or 3 short 1-minute videos in here that they can watch as well. But that is one place young children can go, and then some of the other databases are more appropriate for middle school and high school. But the ones that are found on your child's library, whether it's elementary or middle school or high school, are appropriate for the ages of the children at that school. Does that make sense? Okay. So if they need, from inside the single sign-on, one of the things that we have is a single sign-on where they can go here. Oops, I have to spell it right. They can use their school username and password. And when it finally shows up, you will see all the different apps, and they don't need usernames and passwords if they go in this way. Librarians can give them username and passwords, but the reason we went this way is once they've logged in with their school username and password, they can get to any of this without having to need a password at home. And so that was the main thing. Since I was given just a short time, I just wanted to show you some things that could help you and to show you Common Sense Media so that you could use it to find recommendations for and information about the apps and the websites and the different movies and things. And I think we're going to ask some questions. So once Amy turns it over for questions, if you have any questions,
So
please let me know.
everybody has a little card. Thank you. It's the end of the day. Having trouble pulling things forward in my head. So if you have any questions, if you want to jot those down, we'll come along and collect your cards, and Mr. Brian Adams will be our little moderator and ask questions. So
if you used yours for, I know sometimes with notes, so
oh, okay.
Spares, there's a few around.
Yeah, we have some extras. Sometimes people don't like to ask questions out loud, so we try and always give you guys the opportunity today to write your question down.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, any cards we need to collect? Everybody's diligently taking notes, y'all. All right, Brian, so it looks like we have one. And we'll put you guys on the hot spot for
That's okay. Now, somebody wants to know, can parents call the school librarian for questions or concerns on the website, or how to use stuff like that?
Absolutely. We do teach students how to use them, but if parents want to know or if they have any questions, they are welcome to call my office or the campus library. My office is, if you call the front number, which is 940-369-0000. They can transfer you. It's probably the easiest way.
Anybody else taking card? This down. What kind of parent controls can you put on apps? How do you find out how to do it?
That's a very broad question that has a lot of different answers depending on what we're talking about. Define parent controls. What are we? Are you specific apps or phone? What are we talking about?
I mean, like, I guess, is there any controls on these apps, or are they,
Yeah.
do they keep parents off of them, or should I, how do
No.
I even know, or?
No, that's a good. Okay,
And
so.
some of them you said, they're good for this, but they're not good for
Yeah.
this, and so what can you do to
I'm with you. I'm
let
with you.
the kids do the good stuff, but
Yeah.
maybe help control?
So, a couple of things. First of all, depending on the device, their parent settings are different. So, like little kids, I recommend the Kindle Fire because you can set things like how long they engage with specific apps. And there's a bunch of different devices that are doing that now. But that was the first one to kind of have that idea of controlling specific. You can spend 15 minutes a day with this app, 10 minutes a day with this app. For your older kids, that's a lot tougher. I would familiarize yourself with whatever app they're using with that app-specific settings. But understand, unless you're using phone-based parental controls, any setting you change, a kid can change that. You know what I mean? So using those parental controls are great. You know, I use stuff for different ways. So the parental controls can be used whether it's setting specific timers. Again, it all depends though on the phone, on the device. So if you're wanting like a big, how do I control universally this kid's phone usage, I would look at a specific device, something that does something like what the phone does. But within specific apps, I can tell you this: if you're on an iPhone, I would always, for my kids, now teenagers maybe not, but for the young kids, I would definitely, I'd share an iCloud account. If they download anything, it should go to my phone too. You know, you turn on automatic downloads, and if they download it, if a sixth grader downloads an app on their phone, it should show up on your phone. Makes sense, and then you can set parental controls that dictate whether they can even get into the app store. So yeah, I just familiarize yourself with each one of those apps that you're talking about. We both mentioned, we didn't know we were going to do that. We both mentioned Common Sense Media Programs. They're really good, and just about every app that you look at, there'll be an explanation as to what the parental controls are or if they exist at all. And the big thing for me is, so like Musically, for example, you can set settings to make everything that's yours private, but it takes about 2 or 3 clicks for a kid to bypass that and be searching the world for their stuff. So, and it's so poorly moderated that even if the setting, you see what I'm saying? There's no foolproof approach to those things. So I would encourage you, philosophically, in terms of how a kid handles their phone. We're way better about monitoring a TV or an Xbox because we can see it. With a phone, man, it's the Wild West. We let 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds go nuts on our phones just to keep us entertained. And we're not paying attention to what we're doing. Make sense?
I would also suggest that you work with your phone company, so if they download anything, you as who controls that, gets a list of everything downloaded onto that phone. I know my husband does it as a businessman. He wants to know everything one of his employees downloads, and he gets a record of it.
And the
Doesn't keep him from doing it, but he knows it.
Well, and okay, so we're talking about that kind of speaks to whether or not it's okay. To what degree of confidentiality should a kid have digitally? I want an expectation for every kid's device that device is public property because of the fact that I'm paying for it, and it's yours, and it's public property. And I say that not to trap a kid. I don't want to spring that on a kid. I want them to know in advance that that's the expectation, hopefully to be proactive in preventing them from doing some of the things that they would not want to get caught doing.
And sometimes it's innocent stuff that they don't even have a clue.
Well, that's honestly...
Getting stuff that isn't even, that you're just...
Okay, so I would want to have a conversation with every young kid who struggles with what stuff is. What does inappropriate content look like? If you're ever confused by something, I don't want you to close anything. I don't want you to hide anything. I want you to show them. And in fact, with a young kid, I had a situation that was within the last 6 months where I had a kid who, that's what happened. The kid went to the mom. It was a high school kid. Kid went to the mom and showed, now it was a weird situation, but it showed an inappropriate message that he had received from a young lady that the mom knew. So he didn't want to get caught with it. That was the expectation, was they'd had a conversation about the fact that this would be the norm. So he showed it to her and said, I don't want anybody thinking that I solicited this. Here's the thread. I didn't do it, but here it is. Well, that prevented that kid from ending up in a bad situation. It was a norm, the expectation. You see any nudity, you see any profanity, just show me what it is.
I can't reiterate enough what Ryan said about having that conversation with your kid. The best thing I ever did, I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old. But the best thing I did was I said, show me how you use this app.
What do you do with it?
Yes. I had that conversation, and it was Snapchat with my daughter. I didn't understand it. I had her show me exactly how she used it. We had all the conversations about, she goes, I know, Mom, it doesn't really disappear. I get it, but I'm doing it for this purpose. And I said, okay, so now she Snapchats me. But, just having that conversation is...
Well, and that does a number of things. The big thing that it does, and the tech plan, when I said it wasn't a concrete, it shouldn't be this draconian method for managing technology. What that tech plan is about having a conversation. I don't want your kids to drink, but I don't want them to just know that. I want you to say it. I want you to say the words, I don't want you to drink. Because I don't want them to be at a party and not know that you said that, because then they can plead ignorance. And I want to have that conversation. On the tech plan, we didn't get to it. There are lines that say, do not be mean to people online. It sounds ridiculous, right? I shouldn't have to put that in the tech plan. I want that to have been said. Because one of the things that she just talked about, when they show you what an app does, you know what you just eliminated? I didn't know that if I did this, because you don't know the text, so they can plead ignorance and you don't have any idea whether to tell them the truth or not. Well, if you've had a long conversation with them about these things, it's much harder to do that. And if you've said, do not be mean to people online, that's what it says. Do not be mean to people online. That's an expectation. As a family, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to post mean things to my sister-in-law, even though I'd like to sometimes. Not going to. My kids aren't going to do that either, because we've had that conversation. So as weird as it sounds, having that proactive conversation, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're not going to do, this is acceptable, this is not. Seeing naked people on your phone is inappropriate and unacceptable. What are you going to do if it happens? I want you to have that conversation.
Something about the downloading the app. Some apps, don't they end in like PPT or something, and you don't have to get them through your app store. You can just get them offline, right?
Sure. I don't know the process to do that, but that theoretically does certainly sound like something they could, well, through a web browser, yeah. So yeah, they could go to their web browser and download it, sure.
Because my daughter came home and told me that some kids at school had shown her how to do that.
No, yes, that's a problem, which is why we go back to that whole, I want to know what every app is on
Yeah,
it.
so she was like, look what I learned today.
Okay, well, so again, but that goes back to the whole, this is a moving target, right? So you walk out of here today with a handful of apps, right? Well, there are, you do this presentation with a bunch of kids in the room, and I'll guarantee you, for every app I'm showing you, they know 5 more that we're not talking about. Make sense? So I don't want you to have a conversation with your kid in the tech plan and say, okay, that's it. I want them to know your phone is public property. I have one that says no locked screens. I don't want any locked screens in the house. Now, for me, it's a little different. I got a 5-year-old who, no joke, one time I walked in on him. He had my phone. He was FaceTiming with one of my college professors. Well, I hadn't seen it in a long time. In his day, he was real sweet to him. And when I looked at it, because he looks a lot like my dad, and I didn't realize that, his picture was in my phone, because when it was one of my master's teachers. And when I looked at my son, I said, what are you doing? And he looked at me and goes, I thought it was Bobby. So I don't remember how we got onto that topic. But yes, knowing what they're doing, they're going to find ways to get around it, but I want to know, routinely, I want to know no locked screens. That's what got us on with that. No locked screens, because I want every kid to know, at any given point, parents can pick up my phone, can randomly go through a couple apps and look at it. That's going to be an expectation. Now, in defense of the kids, I don't want you to spring that on them out of nowhere. That needs to be a part of the conversation first. Otherwise, it's entrapment. You know what I mean? I want them to know that it's the expectation so that they're not caught one day on a Saturday having never had this conversation, having not been a part of this, hey, give me your phone, let me go through it. You just started World War III. Okay. Yeah.
Are there any tricks of finding hidden apps or apps that hide other apps on phones or tablets?
Know what all those apps are. Really don't. Listen, we talked about it. The ones that are hidden. Poof is one. The calculator percent is one. And listen, I know this is going to sound really elementary. Google search apps that hide apps. You'll find a billion of them. And if you look through and see one that looks, hey, wait a minute, that looks kind of familiar, read about it. The answer is yes, there are a ton of them. Are there ways to find them? Sort of. You look at the phone. And if you know what that app does, you'll recognize it as an app that does this thing, right? And if you don't recognize it, then do some research. Pull up common sense, Google search it. Whatever you got to do, you figure out what that app does. You don't rest until you do. Yes, that's my answer to that question.
Is there a program that can monitor phone, computer, and game consoles?
Phone, computer, and game. Phone, yeah, the stuff we talked about, phone. Game consoles, not that I'm aware of, although that is not my area of expertise, so it's possible. What was the other one?
Phone, computer, and game.
Yeah, okay. Phone and computer we covered. Net nanny is awesome. If you're talking about an actual static computer, I don't recommend it unless you have a real reason to, but the spy thing, that's what it does. It records keystrokes, man. It gives you passwords if you want them. I don't recommend that unless you have a reason for it, but Net Nanny is great. Net Nanny, you can download it on up to 5 devices, including a laptop. Net Nanny allows your kid to use the computer. You can use your phone, it blocks stuff that's inappropriate. Of course, not everything, because there is no such thing as a completely effective web filter. But it blocks stuff that's listed as inappropriate. And then what I like about Net Nanny, the reason, first of all, their filtration software is better than all the other ones. But the reason I really like Net Nanny, it sends you reports. Every time your kid gets blocked, you get an email that says, they got blocked, here's the site they were trying to access. Now here's the funny thing. The parents I know who use Net Nanny, 95% of the time when the kid gets blocked, it's from doing like a school assignment. It blocks stuff, they're not doing anything bad. And so the parents who do that have the ability to clear that page. So it's not always a bad thing. When you get it, it's not always they were looking up, some pornographic imagery. Sometimes it is. They were doing a project and they got blocked on some website, you get the thing and you unblock it and they're good. Net Nanny is the best. Up to 5 devices, it's all kind of uniform, and everybody who touches that device, you still get that same message. And for the record, you can't tell if they say well, I gave my phone to my friend and she was looking at stuff, I don't know what she was doing. If it comes from your phone, it comes from you. That needs to be an expectation in your house. If that's an issue, then you'll need to give your phone to whoever you gave it to. If it comes from your phone, I assume it came from you. Tweets, social media postings, inappropriate web searches, there is no such thing as, well, that was somebody else, I don't know who that was. You tweet it, you own it. If it's on your phone, you own it. Okay?
Phones are interfering with relationships. How can we work with our spouse and sometimes work from home? Would it be best to go to the office instead of staying at home, or other options?
Okay, hold on. Work? So we're working from home on a device interfering with the relationship, right?
Yes.
Okay. There's a conversation that I think every spouse needs to have. I like technology. Again, it may not sound that way. I really like technology. Every time I get a phone, I get the new iPhone or whatever, I open it up, and not once have I ever been in the car and looked at my wife and be like, oh, this thing's awesome! What kind of role would we like for this to play in our relationship? But I actually want you to have that conversation. So here's some simple questions that I ask spouses to communicate to each other, right? Question number 1. In what ways does communication enhance our family? Listen, in what ways does technology enhance our family? Technology is awesome. It keeps my wife and I together. When it comes to groceries, we have one of the apps where if I get something, I can swipe it off and it shows up on her phone as being swiped off. Saved our lives. When I work a lot, I'm a family therapist, so I do a lot of work in the evenings. FaceTime was the greatest thing I ever found because it allows me to talk to my 5-year-old if I'm not home that night. So technology can enhance your family functioning. So that's question 1. Question 2, what ways does it detract from our family functioning? One of the things that my wife and I had to have conversations about was, if you're talking to me, look at me. As soon as this happens, we stop talking. It's just an expectation that we've established over the course of years. If one of us is sitting, and by the way, this happened yesterday. It was her who did it. I was thrilled. We were having dinner, and she picked up her phone, and she was texting a neighbor about something that was fairly important. I was in the middle of a sentence, and I stopped talking in the middle of that sentence. Waited did, so she put her phone down. It was non-threatening. It was a non-verbal communication, but we've had a conversation. If I ever do that, stop talking. I'll get it, I'll know what you're saying, and when I put my phone down, I'll remember we've had this conversation. Didn't pick it back up again, we never had to fight about it, we never had to argue about it. It was the expectation, if you look at your phone while I'm talking to you, I'm going to stop talking. Make sense? No hurt feelings. It happens sometimes. There are times when we're talking and this stuff comes in. As far as work goes, how does technology enhance our family? How does technology hurt our family? What do I do that my partner would like for me to do different? And I want you to, before you step into that conversation, remember something. I don't know why. Talking about technology is really personal. We get really offended when we feel like people are criticizing our technology use. When they say we're on our phone too much, that is a personal slight. You will not talk to me that way. We get really weird about it, right? Like it's like an appendage, like it's a part of our humanity. So understand going in, this is going to be a sensitive topic, but ask your spouse the question. And you want to be super spouse. You want to be that spouse that contributes to the marriage. Ask your partner, what do I do that you wish I wouldn't do? And then don't get mad when they answer it. What do I do that you wish I would? Like, what do I do if you could take away a couple of things that I do? What would you like for me to take away? Now again, don't get mad because they're going to answer it. And when they answer it, you need to be able to say, okay, I hear what you're saying. Now, how can we compromise to get a little bit closer to that vision? I'm not saying to just concede no matter what because it may be work related. But is there a way that you can is there a room I can go to that's just when I'm working, so that I can separate my work life from my family life? And if I'm in that room, don't take it personally. I'm not in there checking sports scores. I'm not in there I'm working. And try to respect that, and I will try to respect the fact that you would like for me to not be in that room all the time. Make sense? This is about a conversation. It's a give and take, man. It's basic marriage communication. But for whatever reason, because we don't understand what these things are doing to us. By the way, and I didn't give these numbers for the sake of time. The average person opens their phone 85 to 100 times a day. If you just narrow that down to waking hours, that means you open your phone every 9 minutes. If you did anything else every 9 minutes, you would have a diagnosable disorder. If every 9 minutes I just did that, that would be weird. And people would wonder what was wrong with me. Every 9 minutes I yelled at him, Edna! That would be bizarre, but because it's socially acceptable, we're totally fine with this. We're totally fine with this every 9 minutes. Remember a couple years ago, when it started, you would hear the ding, and you couldn't resist. Oh, it vibrated. Now it doesn't have to vibrate, man. It's been 3 minutes. I don't know. What's happening? Yeah, that's what we're doing now, right? Okay, here's the problem. We're not talking about this with our spouse. The person that gets in the way of the most is not your relationship with your kids, although that's a big one. If it's getting in the way of your relationship with your wife, with your husband, that's a major problem. If you, and I won't get too far into this conversation, children present, at night, if your phone makes it to bed with you, that is not good. That phone should not be invited to bed with you and your husband, with you and your wife. That phone should have to stay outside. It's too young to see what goes on. I don't want your phone to get between you and your spouse. To me, that's absolutely good. Yes.
All right, thank you so much for coming tonight. We hope you took away at least one nugget to help you with your family and your managing your social media and digital citizenship. Yes. If you will please complete our community forum feedback form for us. That gives us some valuable feedback so we can provide what our parents in our district are needing. And thank you again for coming, and thank you very much, Ryan and Donna. We appreciate you.